My name is Peter West. I'm an SD-WAN architect, and I specialize in enterprise and healthcare connectivity. And if you know some of my work, I kind of try to solve creative problems around mobility and backhaul of infrastructure. So during the 5G revolution here, what's happening with 5G, and there's a lot of I don't want to say fake news, 'cause I don't like that word, but there's a lot of questions about how it's being deployed and what it means to you. And so I've got Greg Brown from T-Mobile and Chris McDonald from AT&T, and we are going to talk about the 5G technologies, what the different bands and spectrum mean, and how that applies to you guys out here trying to figure out when and how to buy and purchase upgrade to 5G, or is it relevant for me? And then at the end, I'm going to go over some products and solutions that are already 5G capable and how we're addressing those needs on a hardware and infrastructure or enterprise kind of method, I guess. So once again, my name is Peter West. I thought it was kind of a cool graphic talking about the differences, because I've heard a lot of 5G talk about 5G being gig. And actually, if you look at it, the 3G spectrum went all the way up to 42 megabits per second, which back in, pre-2002, I mean, that would have been blazing speed. When 4G was announced, it started out about 100 megabits per second and upgraded to 4G LTE Advanced that gets up to 300 megabits. And I know the modems themselves, modules, actually say they're rated at 600 megabits, and some of the new stuff is even gigabit, but you don't really see that throughput. And then they're claiming that 5G really is this 10 gigabits and beyond. And I'm excited to hear some of this from the guys on this panel. From AT&T, we have Chris McDonald. He's a retired police officer with an extensive understanding of 5G real-world experience and as the impact of FirstNet and first responders. And I'd like to thank him for taking time to answer questions and go over the 5G as it relates to AT&T.
All right. Peter, thanks for having me on today. I know there are a lot of questions surrounding 5G and, what it does, what it can do, and why do I need it? So put together a little presentation to show everybody and answer some of the questions, and I'll try to make this as quick as possible for you guys. So, AT&T business, we talk about, why AT&T, why, whoever. AT&T has invested a lot in the 5G market, but it's not just from that. It's kind of what we have all the way across our company, and some of the high points here: more than 100 billion vulnerability probes daily, 58 million IoT connected device, Internet of Things devices on the AT&T network. We cross just a major realm of pretty much every aspect of it. Let's go forward. All right. So this just talks about, it's a new kind of mobility, right? So when we talk about enterprise grade, typically your large, massive companies, or, for a long time, the only ones that could get this type of connectivity, this type of speed. We're now bringing this down to even, small business. The 5G has revolutionized what we can do for businesses, in the marketplace, and you don't have to be this massive, Fortune 500 company to get this type of quality in your network. We start talking about analytics. All right, we've seen data analytics and software transform businesses, and there's been, three major trends that we've seen that have actually, moved this. Digital transformation brought new efficiencies that broke down, silos and cap expenditures. Then we have the move to the cloud. That completely grew flexibility within, pretty much anyone's expectations. And mobilization of workforce. It increased productivity, making collaboration easier. In today's world with COVID, being at home, being able to have, connectivity, and it being at a speed that, will suffice all your needs. I think we all pretty much I will attest today that you know, my internet at home is down, so I'm on my hotspot on my phone, and you know, it's making my life a lot easier. Without that, we would be in some deep trouble in today's world. You know, the digital era is rushing in. You know, intelligence. Pretty much, you know, we're seeing trends that are pushing how businesses use data to create new revenue streams, improve customer experiences, automate, you know, complex processes, and expanding compute power between devices, not just in them, but between them. And, you know, AT&T has partnered with our customers through the last transformation. You know, we're building solutions to bring them through to the next era, you know, including, you know, artificial intelligence, massive IoT. You know, we're actually moving forward, and the 5G is helping with that drastically. You know, 5G nationwide. You know, we boast that we have, you know, the largest 5G network, and we do. We are a nationwide spectrum with over 2 million points of presence, and we're growing daily. You know, just the map of the Florida 5G market alone is pretty much dark blue on the entire state. So we invest heavily in adding new towers, getting the 5G expanded. And just a list of devices that are covering, you know, that are able to do the 5G experience. And now we're including the iPhone 12 on this as well. So we have a very large spectrum of devices that are compatible with 5G. All right, so, you know, we talk about 5G and why do we need it? What is it? How does it work? Everybody goes, well, it's faster. Yes, it is faster, all right? But, you know, it's more than just higher data rates. It's ultra low latency, all right? So you go to open that app, you go to open that website on your phone, and it's gonna pop up immediately. High reliability, you know, mission critical. 5G is, you know, pushed out, and kind of going into another subject, but, you know, FirstNet is our baby, and 5G, you know, it's pretty much, it runs. Massive IoT connectivity, so you can connect a large amount of devices through 5G. So, you know, imagine yourself at home, you're running off, you know, just a hotspot, whatever. On the 4G LTE, you know, the more devices you add, you know, obviously the slower the speed's going to be. It's kind of like, you know, fiber broadband, something like that. But with the 5G, you can add more devices. You can get more, you know, a larger broadband to power these devices and still maintain a high quality speed. And, you know, again, the ultra high speed, it is, it is like Peter said earlier, you know, we've gone from roughly 300 megs, you know, up to potentially 10 gig. So the speed is there. We're also already working with several customers to realize these capabilities in various use cases through trials, targeted customer campaigns, and leveraging low power wide area technologies. Fixed wireless. That is something that we are, you know, pushing out. We're rolling out now. If you're in an area that does not have a good quality internet provider, you can't get fiber, your speeds are lower. We're looking at, we're pushing out fixed wireless broadband. So it's going to run off the 5G network to get, you know, to help businesses achieve their true potential. And pretty much that's right. You know, the nation's best network with, you know, wired and wireless routings is path to fast. You know, even though 5G is tied to mobility, we understand that our customers have fixed locations and often need, you know, a fixed wireless solution. To meet these, we are, you know, it's the AT&T wireless broadband. It provides unique data plans. Customers can choose between speed tier-based prices, and it just gets them the solution that they need. And pretty much this is just excuse me, an overview of what the pricing would be. Granted, is it, more expensive? Yes, but you're getting all the benefits of the low latency, the security, which is typically not something that you're going to get on just regular broadband, say with AT&T fiber or something in that aspect. All right, so that's that, Peter. You mind if I go ahead and roll into the FirstNet?
Yes, please. Let's talk about FirstNet a little bit. That'd be great.
This is something that's near and dear to my heart. Being a former police officer, I have understood the just the difficulty of getting information when you need it. I've understood being out in the field, not having connectivity because you're just on a standard cell service, being in a very critical incident and not being able to call out. I was actually in one when I worked for Atlanta Police. That was probably one of the biggest ones we've ever had, and it was awful. So this one is near and dear to my heart. I love the FirstNet. I think its mission is 100% spot on. It is there for first responders, and it is there when they need it. 100% guaranteed. Built for you and inspired by you, exactly right. So this was built, with 100 years of emergency response solutions. I'm not going to read all these. I'll hit the high points, but in March of 2017, we were awarded a contract to provide the capabilities for FirstNet to be built. And in December 2017, all the U.S. states and territories opted in. They all wanted to be part of it. We're still developing and still growing the network, but ask anybody who knows anything about FirstNet, and they will sing its praises. Well, let's talk about what it's about. So the public-private partnership. There was a 25-year commitment that we had to grow the network. We had to build it. We had to get it set up. Band 14. So ongoing deployment of FirstNet nationwide. Band 14 is a dedicated band for first responders. This can range anywhere from police officers, fire, medical professionals. It even has a secondary tier for people who hold government contracts who may be called out in an emergency response situation. It is their own private network, and we have more than $40 billion invested over 25 years. All right, it's faster than any commercial network. This is true. In the past 5 years, we've spent $145 billion on it. And with the 5G evolution, it's now available in over 450 markets. So some people might ask how it works, and I'll go ahead and cut to the chase on this. Imagine a flex lane on a road that you have to pay to drive on. The only people that can be on that road are people that have paid to be on it, and you have to have certain credentials to be able to pay to be on it. Nobody else can get on it, so you're in rush hour at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's gridlock traffic. It's never going to be gridlock in the flex lane. You're always going to have the only people that need to be on that network are on that network. Let's see. First priority. So yeah, like I said, I've been in many critical incidents where I'm trying to dial out a cell phone. There's something going on. Granted, I have my radio, but a lot of times radio traffic was tied up. This guarantees that any officer at any time, any first responder is going to be able to pick up that phone. Not only the phone, but imagine being in a patrol car and reading critical information that's coming down the pipe. Imagine being a firefighter or EMT and getting that information faster than you could ever imagine. It's amazing. Well, I could sit here and talk about it all day. What's next? So, again, new enhancements, all right, constantly. Encrypted assets, further fortifying, the FirstNet dedicated satellite is making sure that it's encrypted. And smart cities, AT&T is the leader in smart cities. We are pushing 3GPP compliant push to talk. So we're constantly evolving this. We're making it better. And yeah, I think it's just an amazing product. Peter, that's all I have. You still there?
So thank you so much, Chris. And I'm going to have a whole bunch of questions, but what I want to do actually is go to Greg, talk about T-Mobile's 5G infrastructure and what we have to offer. And then I'd like to open up a roundtable and talk about 5G. Is that okay? I mean, I don't know if that conflicts your interest, or am I allowed just to openly talk about 5G between the two of you? Greg, shake your head.
No, that's completely fine.
And so we're gonna have Greg talk about T-Mobile's infrastructure, and then after Greg, if you have questions specifically, whether it's FirstNet with Chris or about 5G in general, I got a slew of questions I'm gonna ask, and then we'll talk about some products and solutions as well. So thank you so much, Greg, and thank you, Chris, for that great talk on your infrastructure, and now we're going to talk about T-Mobile's solutions.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter, for that introduction. And can you see my slides? Okay, awesome. All right, so we were asked to kind of speak about what 5G looks like in the wireless landscape, and really kind of clear some of the confusion about the different terms that are used and what goes into building a 5G network. So that's kind of the focus of the presentation today. And I wanted to give you just a picture of what T-Mobile engineers were viewing when they set out to build the best 5G network in the country. The use cases that we can imagine are going to take us so far, right? I mean, who could have imagined when we launched 4G LTE, your Ubers of the world, or live news streaming broadcasts from the major networks, as well as your average citizen. So these are things that it's one of those, if you build it, they will come. Many of you in this audience today really are working on that innovation in these areas that we're really hoping to see our 5G networks leveraged. But to the best of our imaginations, we know with the speed that 5G brings, we're going to have our fixed broadband applications, whether that's home internet service related, business wireline replacement or failover in an SD-WAN capacity. We expect that. On the other side of 5G, this is kind of a new piece of information for many people. We are just deploying a portion, and I say we, carriers are just deploying a portion of 5G capabilities today. On that slice in the right, where you see Internet of Things, now there is a capability of 5G networks called network slicing. So this is just industry standards where we can portion off, think of it almost like a VMware virtual machine, right? You can portion off a section of your network and dedicate it to low bandwidth, but super low latency. So we're talking in the single-digit millisecond latency. At a time in wireless, it seems like that would defy the laws of physics, but that's what we're looking like. So mission-critical IT, massive IoT. So we have the capacity to support this, and low battery strength too, or battery usage as well. So that's another portion of 5G that we're looking at in the future. But the reality is, we knew if we were going to build a network that was relevant today, the majority of those use cases that we'll see being developed is in that mobility space. So with that in mind, we recognized early on that we needed to enable mobility. And the only way to enable that mobility is to deploy 5G across multiple frequency bands. So we did deploy 5G across all 3 frequency bands. I just wanted to level set with some terminology. We've got 3 main categories of 5G technology frequencies. You have high frequency bands, which are considered Anything over 24 gigahertz. You might hear this referred to as millimeter wave. The reason it's called millimeter wave is it's the way that the signal travels and propagates from the tower. The space between the signals or that information carried is literally measured in millimeters. That's how short of a wavelength this is. But the benefit to that is you're packing a ton of information over a short period of time. So that's why with millimeter wave, the speeds that we are already seeing today, and this is really across all carriers, are mind-boggling. You know, we're measuring in gigabits per second. So that's what you get with millimeter wave. We've deployed millimeter wave in several cities. I could kind of list them all, but I'll skip that part. You know, I want to specify some of the considerations with millimeter wave, because this is key. Because of the propagation characteristics, right, that short wavelength, it doesn't travel very far. The best way to picture this is, you know, if you think of the last time you heard someone's car stereo going, right? Or if you're in a movie theater, I think those are opening back up now, and the theater adjacent. You know, what you hear always is what? It's the lower frequencies, that the bass, right? The loud booming explosions. So that's just the way physically waves travel through the air. Whether it's sound waves, radio waves is what we're talking about. The lower the frequency, the further it travels. Millimeter wave, remember, anything over 24 gigahertz, you know, that's 24,000 megahertz. To scale, it travels very short distance. It's also obstructed easily. Things like trees, walls, even glass windows, believe it or not, can impede that signal. So we knew right away, you know, the speeds are incredible. You won't get faster, the millimeter wave, but you really need it in more places to take advantage of that mobility space. So, you know, the next place that we're focusing on our deployment, 5G deployment, is midband. So this you might have heard referred to as sub-6, which is, you know, sub or under, anything under 600 gigahertz, 6,000 megahertz. You know, midband is really going to be the best combination of speed and breadth of coverage. So remember, we're going from 24,000 gigahertz down to 2,500 gigahertz. That is a significant difference in wavelength. So just with midband spectrum alone, we're seeing peak speeds of a gigabit per second on midband. And you know, we decided that midband would be most important in areas that are urban areas, suburban areas. It's a mixture of capacity and speed. And you know, since our merger, you know, part of the driving factor for the merger was this focus on 5G. Sprint had a tremendous spectrum holding assets in midband. And since our merger, we've been pacing, last time I checked, it was about 1,000 sites per month deploying 5G at 2.5 gigahertz. Today, we're covering over 100 million, or excuse me, by the end of the year, we will cover over 100 million people at that pace. So low band frequency is the third area. You know, while midband is great, if you really want to go far, and we're talking into rural areas, we want to deploy on 600 and 700 megahertz, which we've done. And when we say far from a tower, just to do a contrast, where millimeter wave can travel maybe a few city blocks from a tower without obstruction, we're looking at we are seeing our 5G travel over 60 miles on 600 megahertz. So wide open spaces, that's the kind of areas where we'd want to take advantage of the low band frequency. So this is going to be important as you're choosing equipment, right? You know, depending on your use case, if you're going to be in a fixed area, you know we have millimeter wave coverage, in that location, sure, get the device that supports millimeter wave, point it straight at the tower, and you're getting insane speeds, right? If your use case involves deploying across a broad coverage area, that's when you're going to want to select equipment that includes those lower frequencies, and that's specified in the 5G radio. So just to kind of give an overview of the landscape and the scale of spectrum holdings. And millimeter wave, today, we have over 1,100 megahertz of spectrum of millimeter wave. That's the second largest millimeter wave spectrum holdings in the US. Let's skip down just to the low band, namely 600 megahertz, which is extremely low frequency. We have over 31 megahertz of low band frequency, and those licenses where we own the spectrum, it covers 100% of the US, the licenses. So these are just the spectrum holdings. You can think of this like real estate for carriers. You still have to build on the real estate, right? But we have the space, and that building is progressing. Now, the biggest takeaway here is that mid-band spectrum, and the truth is, I've got a graphic that illustrates this, but the truth is that the majority of use cases for 5G are going to be a combination of low and mid-band spectrum. That's the only way to get the breadth and the coverage that you need, including in building. And I'll again speak to in building in a moment too. So just to give you kind of a look into the future here, our build track within 6 years is to have 99% of the population covered with 5G. We're talking about 14 times increase in capacity from where we are today, so it's very exciting. And our merger really enables that. We're continually adding spectrum. We're working closely with OEMs to help develop modules and chipsets that support those frequency bands, and getting them into our certification labs early to make sure that they're working the best with our network. So that's the kind of collaboration that we bring, and especially with our partners, such as West Networks, where we can kind of sit down with you and look at your specific use case, and then help select Peplink devices, that can support that kind of deployment for your specific need. So, no cellular presentation would be complete without a map. So here's the map. The problem with these maps is I almost didn't include it because every time I present, the numbers change. So there is an error on here. We are up to 260 million people covered in the US with 5G. And let me just specify those numbers. The colors are fun to look at, but we're talking about, we have signal over 1.3 million square miles of this country in 5G today, right? That is where over 75% of the population lives, is where we have coverage. That is across all 50 states. It includes Puerto Rico. There's over 7,500 cities. It's everywhere. We've blanketed the city with 5G, so we're really proud of what we have here with our network. This is something to consider with coverage maps. You go to a website, you look at the coverage map, it says it's covered. Remember, with 5G, that's only part of the story, because we're deploying 5G over those 3 different spectrum bands. So you might have coverage at this lat long or at this address according to the map. But what that doesn't tell you is how far does that signal penetrate into the building. So if you're doing an SD-WAN deployment with your server room, down in the basement or in the center of a building, right, cinder blocks around. See, Peter laughing over here. That's usually where they are, right? You need that signal to get into the building, and that's where it's like, okay, let's get a Peplink device that has 600 megahertz to make that happen. So I just wanted to share that we have expanded over 30% since our launch of 5G, and another part that's really important for us is rural America, and that 600 megahertz signal has you covered in rural areas too. But you know what? I mean, I like 4G. It's great. It's really fast, even on its own. And the good news is it's not going anywhere. We are working with standards by 3GPP to enable what's called dual connectivity. So this is almost like channel bonding, with 4G and 5G. And so it's based on device support. But it is a device standard. So when I mentioned we're working with OEMs, right, this is one of the things we're encouraging OEMs to include, so that we can actually aggregate our 4G and 5G links and bond them to increase speeds even more. So on 5G alone, right, we're seeing average speeds, and this is just so far. Remember, we're still building the network up. Average speeds of about 300 megabits per second on average, right? Peak and higher, it happens often. You start to bond with 4G, that's where you can see even more speed increases. And you just wait until we finish building out the rest of our towers and deploying 5G on the spectrum that we have. We are not sharing our 5G spectrum with 4G. So when we deploy 5G, we have enough spectrum to deploy it on dedicated frequency without, splitting that with 4G. So, that's really it. We are excited to come into the future with you and see how you leverage the 5G network to make that evolution take place.
And so now I'm going to talk about our 5G ready portfolio, and I'm going to go into use cases. We've done a lot of work with first responders. I've done work with manufacturing facilities. I've done work with some pretty cool companies implementing and deploying very unique 5G solutions. And Peplink has been a great help in this because we're able to innovate fast. We've had the ability to get Cat 18 and Cat 20 modems coming down the line here and really understand how to get that bandwidth that we need to get for enterprise reliability, scalability, and then for these mobile operators like mobile health clinics. And so Peplink has deployed these routers, these new 5G ready routers, and we've been working on them for over a year now. And so getting ready for this 5G deployment. So Peplink's mission, and always has been, is unbreakable connectivity, and that hasn't changed. It's the very first router that I ever deployed in 2006 with combining a DSL modem and a cable modem to connect a small business server. That mission has never changed with Peplink. The idea of making sure that the connectivity never goes down and that first responders and mission critical business applications and enterprise networks can stay running regardless of what connection is available to them. And that's where the partnerships with AT&T and T-Mobile and even other carriers out there that weren't part of this, like Verizon, come into play with the ability to link these networks together and utilize a single platform and ecosystem to take advantage of these technologies. Peplink is currently rated 5 stars on Pure Insights, and we've got some really neat reviews from some cool companies. So if you've never been to Pure Insights, I highly advise going there and reading some of these reviews and taking a look at what our products have, because when you're comparing them and our bonding technology, which I'll go over in a minute, when you're comparing the Peplink products to some of the other competitors, the ability to take advantage of our ecosystem, our integrated platform, and our feature set creates an incredible, powerful mobile or even enterprise branch office solution. So our 5G portfolio consists of a couple different routers. We have our MBX, which is our staging router. This is one of the first 5G ready devices we've ever made. And the way that we did this is by creating a 2.5 gigabit capable cellular router with a modular capability. So in other words, a year and a half ago when this device first came out, it had a Cat 12 4G modem in it. And now you can get a Category 18 4x4 MIMO modem. And then that even grows into future modules like the Category 20 and beyond, or a millimeter wave if that's something that you're building. So you can just plug in the module and upgrade those routers' capabilities. The Balance 310X, or 310 5G in this case, is a branch office single cellular 5G solution. So the idea is to give you that 2+ gigabits of throughput for your Ethernet handoff, and then be able to fail over to a 5G solution seamlessly and continuing to operate without even a loss of without losing your session. Sorry. And then our PDX is built on the MBX, and this is our rugged portable case made by Peplink. I'll go over that in a minute, but it's really, really cool. And then you have our branch routers. These are SDX Pro, which is a dual flex module router, our SDX, which is a single flex module router, and then our EPX, which is an 8-bay, 40 gigabit flex module router. I have deployed all three of these in mobile healthcare solutions as well as manufacturing solutions, taking advantage of 5G, or not 5G yet, but 5G capabilities in the future with 4G advanced. So, you know, keeping people ready for that. The NBX is ridiculous with its 16, and I actually have one right here. And I know there's a picture, but it doesn't do it justice sometimes. I mean, the number of connections on here, the 16 QMA connections on this are insane. We had to go QMA because you couldn't fit your fingers between the SMA screws and the connections. We went to QMA connections so we could clip on the connections more reliably, and they also stay there. So during vibrations, they don't unscrew and get popped out. But I mean, look at that, 16. And the reason for that, and I'd love, one of the questions I'm gonna have for Greg or Chris will be like the difference between the 4x4 MIMO and how powerful that is on 5G versus 2x2 MIMO. Because why is my, you know, my category 20 or 18 device has 4 antennas per modem versus the 4G Cat12 devices that we have 2 antennas per modem. So anyways, that's the idea here. And then it also has an 8-port PoE plus switch, LAN switch. And what that means is you can power your phones, your VoIP phones, your cameras, your PPZ controllers, your IoT equipment. And then all of our devices also have more than one power source. So we have 2 54-volt DC connectors, and then a 12 to 56-volt DC terminal block connection. So you have triple power input for either UPS redundancy or DC redundancy or AC to DC redundancy, or just increasing the amount of wattage available for your PoE. And then we're talking about the Quad G, the powerhouse here, some of the features that it has. Once again, I talked about the camera. The SIM injector is a really neat device. This device here, the SIM injector, you can load with 8 SIM cards, put this in behind your router, or put this in your data center, feed SIM cards to the router remotely over the internet. T-Mobile might not like me for that, or AT&T might not like me for that, because basically what I can do is I can put my SIM cards in here, connect this to the internet, and then remotely send it to my routers. It's called the SIM injector. It's absolutely amazing because I can do it based on geofencing. I can do it based on signal strength. So I can switch a router's cellular plans remotely and send those SIM cards. It is not eSIM. This is remotely sending a SIM card's electrical certificate to the router. It's really, really cool. We've had a lot of fun with this SIM injector. So you can power the SIM injector, and then we can create this quad bonded 5G connection. So I'm gonna talk about bonding fast. If you're new to my world and you have not heard my spiel on SpeedFusion, it's my #1 reason for choosing Peplink. Not to mention I love the team, but bonding is something that every time I'm asked to evaluate another product, every time someone says, why Peplink? The answer is bonding. Everything else is great. And I love their equipment. I love the people. I love the support. I love the quality of the product, but I'm passionate about bonding. And the reason is, and I've got 2 guys here that work completely separate companies that both viable, both perfectly capable infrastructures, but ultimately, and everybody knows, infrastructure can either fail, or in some areas it's better, in some areas it's worse. And I've experienced that among everybody, and even myself. I mean, you can't be everywhere all the time. And so with our ability to have 4 modems and 1 router, and then combine those together, means I can have 2 AT&T 5G cards, 2 T-Mobile 5G cards, on those together to create a multi-gigabit connectivity capable solution that's also redundant and helps offload latency and jitter, and creates a more viable solution. Now with 4G, this is super important because 4G, I can do a speed test on my phone and get 2 megabits per second of upload, and then sitting in the same spot at the same time at the same day, do it again and get 80 meg. So, it varies. And so having multiple SIM cards helps balance out the load and share that distribution more evenly. And that's what you're getting when you bond these SIM cards together. And so what we do is by taking the Peplink bonding and combining these SIM cards together, we're creating a really powerful, stable infrastructure for mobile connectivity. And here's just another solution of its capabilities, connecting into switches or combining 5G with LTE with VSAT, Wi-Fi for mobile, for like a yacht provider. So when you're like in a mobile, like a boat, you're far out land, far into the ocean, you're on satellite. As you pull closer, you might be able to pick up LTE. As you pull closer to land, you might pick up 5G. And then when you're docked at the shipyard or the port, you can pick up Wi-Fi, and the router automatically transition and combine any available internet that it has. So kind of a neat way that it does that. In an enterprise world, we can combine 5G with LTE with MPLS and DSL. Once again, both Chris and Greg hit on the fact of like enterprise redundancy and resiliency. We put a CPE with a 5 millimeter wave plug, or even use the module, plug into this router, and now you have 5G resiliency to your Ethernet handoff. The balanced 310 5G is a single cellular 5G solution, or upgradable to dual. But the idea is that it's a very powerful, as 10 gig SFP ports, gig SFP ports. You have your Ethernet LAN, your WAN, and so the idea is low cost branch connectivity. Low cost branch connectivity with cellular 5G failover. And so it's that branch edge device. And then you're going to be able to take advantage of the Fusion SIM cloud, taking advantage of our eSIM capabilities built into it. And now we're going to talk about the fun stuff with the PDX 5G. The PDX, this is a mobile rugged powerhouse. If you're in the first responders or the military, if you need ruggedized portable solutions, if you're in broadcast and your guys are picking your cases or your equipment and breaking it, that's what this is designed to do. It has external sealed LAN ports, Ethernet ports. It has AC input and DC input. We have USB ports. And then on the inside, we have a patch panel that allows you to mix and match either your Ethernet PoE LAN ports or patch in like a WAN port. You have your LED status for your battery if you use the optional battery in the router. And then these 3 bays on the left-hand side are modular bays. You can either plug it in battery packs or our Speed Fusion engine, which is this little box right here. I don't know if you can see it. The Speed Fusion engine can be mounted inside there, giving you 10 SIM cards instead of the built-in 4. All the antennas are built into the lid, so you're literally talking a 5G powerhouse built right into a Pelican case. You really can't get any more powerful than that as far as portability is concerned. Kind of see that Peplink has this, you can use it for event management where you have your dual 5G and your Wi-Fi and your broadcasting. You put in some APs to give yourself a diverse coverage area. Talk about broadcasters using it for streaming. You can plug your video encoder right into the router, use your 5G connectivity back up to the networks, and take advantage of our Fusion SIM bonding, or Fusion SIM delivery, and then take advantage of our WAN smoothing technology to be able to do that. If you don't know what WAN smoothing or Speed Fusion or some of these other technologies are, please schedule a meeting with me. I want to make sure we're talking about 5G and 5G products, because I could literally talk for hours just on Speed Fusion. So if you're hearing a word like WAN smoothing, you go, I want to know what that is, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to schedule another meeting with you on that. Our Flex module is one of the first things that are going to get 5G for us, and it's important because of how cool this is. Peplink released these Flex modules, and this is our 8 gigabit one. And so, I mean, it's decent in size. It's kind of like a beefy unit. So you can see this unit. This is our Flex module. This is an 8-port gigabit PoE module. They're going to be releasing, higher gigabit Ethernet ports, like, for 2.5, 5, and 10 gigabit Ethernet. We also have an SFP module. And when it first started, we had category 6 modules. That got upgraded to category 12 modules. Now we have our 4x4 MIMO category 18 modules. And coming out early next year, we're going to be having the category 20, our first 5G module. And we're going to be certified on T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. We're all of our devices are FirstNet certified. So for your FirstNet network, all of our devices are FirstNet certified as well. So we kind of take the gambit of certification and go through that. The EPX is the first flex module device we ever made, and the concept here is you can have your SIM cards built right into it. So you can have up to technically up to 21 SIM cards, 21 5G SIM cards bonded together to create a multi-gig connectivity. But it also has 10 gig SFPs now. We're releasing a SIM injector module that's going to be able to plug right into that. And so when you're talking about expandability or capability, it's about it's about that throughput that you need to complete your job. And so the EPX is something that I've personally grown very passionate about. We've deployed this in mobile healthcare for live mammography. A lot of times for live mammography, we'll do an HD4 unit with the 4 SIM cards. We've got a handful of customers that have opted in for our EPX platform, and they're able to do live mobile 3D tomography images in under 7 minutes. This is an entire patient study. I mean, it's incredible what we're able to do, and that's on 4G. Imagine these 5G infrastructure and what we're able to do. I can't even imagine how fast it's going to be. One of our customers, Lehigh Valley up in Pennsylvania, is using EPX, and they're able to. They use JPEG compression to compress their 3D total images, and they're able to send those live in under 2 minutes, an entire patient study over 4G technology. And so as 5G rolls out and we get these category 20 modems and we start partnering with getting certified on AT&T and T-Mobile and Verizon, we're going to see even faster connectivity and lower latency, which means more real-time access to mission-critical applications and tools that save people's lives. And it's all powered by these devices right here. The SDX Pro is a really device because the EPX is 8 module base, and it's 40 gigabits of capability, and it's really expensive. So the SDX Pro is kind of like the baby brother to EPX, but I'm supposed to say it's an upgrade to the SDX. So however you want to play that. But it has 2 flex modules, supports 24 gigabits of routing throughput. And so we can add 5G modules. We can add our 3G, our 4G LTE-A modules. It has SFP for WAN and LAN redundancy. So you can have 2 10 gig SFP WANs, 2 10 gig SFP LANs, and then 5G failover, all in the same router. And you can have two 5G failovers, because we got 2 good companies here. You could have an AT&T 5G and a T-Mobile 5G, bond those together with a 10 gig fiber line and have some incredible throughput capabilities and redundancy. And that's our enterprise class reliability. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the cool stuff that I've done for mobile healthcare. My passion is mobile healthcare. I was confronted back in 2011 by a guy named Jerry McLarty with LSU Health, and he wanted to do live mammography. And he said, I've scoured the country. I cannot find anybody capable that's going to be able to send these live mobile mammography images back to our PAC server. And this was kind of 4G was just, getting more common. We didn't have TEA yet. It was just, category 6 4G. And so we built this, what is now the HD4. We built this quad cellular bonded solution. And we were the first that we know of to do live mobile mammography from right to the PACS data center without caching it and transmitting it later. We went right from the imaging, the X-ray, to the router, to the PACS center. No intermediaries. We were able to do the DICOM packet lossless requirements. We were able to send those packets live. Today, what you're looking at here is that design on steroids. So what we've done is we've taken SDX Pro, and I have 2 of these 8-port gigabit modules. And on the roof of their vehicle, I have 10 Category 18 HD1 domes. This creates a lossless design that allows me to bond 10 sources together at one time, sending these images in incredibly high rates of speed right back to the data center. The customer, when they were doing the demo for them, or the training for them, they just kept going, wow, wow, because they didn't believe that I could send live mobile mammography that fast over 4G. What's neat about this is when the Category 20 5G come out, we just unplug the Cat 6 cable, pull out the dome, plug in the new dome with Cat 20, and replace the Cat 6 cable. So these are the domes right here. You just plug in the Cat 6 cable to it, and you have a Category 18 4x4 MIMO antenna device mounted to the roof of the vehicle or the building. This design was also, This design was also completed by a manufacturing facility that had a fully automated manufacturing facility. And they needed to process hundreds of megabits per second of data back to the controllers in Florida. And so I went to Pennsylvania. I set up 4 of these domes, and we ran those down. I mean, you're talking a huge manufacturing facility. So, you know, the antenna cable would have lost too much, signal strength going all the way to the roof of that building. So the Cat 6 running that to the building, to the roof of the building, we installed the domes, and they were able to power their entire facility over 4 of these domes. So once again, really increasing the reliability and capabilities of this technology, powered by an SDX Pro and an HD1 dome. One of our customers, Parkland Hospital, is probably has the most number of HD4 devices in mobile health units and first responder type units that we've seen, or that I've personally done. And so in their data center, we have some EPX routers handling the ingress and DR states, so they're an HA. And then they have all of their mobile units out there with either our HD4s or MBXs and some transit duos. And when COVID hit, they actually just took their mobile clinics, drove up to a parking lot, turned on the Wi-Fi, and powered the whole parking lot with internet. And so it was immediate to them, the value of that capability, because they were able to just drive. Basically, they turned their buses into mobile hotspots for testing, and it worked out really well. They didn't have to build out an infrastructure. They were able to process all the transactions. So I thought that was pretty neat. This right here is another design I did for a county in Texas. They wanted to spin up a call center for actually COVID testing, and there was no infrastructure in place. So we used our MBX Cat 18. We partnered with MobileMark, and MobileMark sent us these amazing antennas. These are 5G capable antennas. They're 600 megahertz to 6 gigahertz with QMA connectors built into them. So we were able to mount these on the roof of that building, have these QMA connectors with this high range connectivity, 600 megahertz all the way to 6 gigahertz, and power 150 employees at this building on a single HD4 MBX with 4 Cat 18 modems. So I'm like really excited for Cat 20, because what Chris and Greg are talking about related to the capabilities at mid-spectrum, which I'm going to hopefully ask them some questions about here in just a minute, that mid-spectrum sub-6 speeds, and what we can realistically see with 5G coming next year, or coming either now and into next year, is going to be great. So I'm going to open up some Q&A, but I have some questions for Greg and Chris. So if you guys are still, I know Chris, yeah, there we go. Greg, if you can come back online, I'd love to just chat for a second about 5G, because the 3 ranges that you mentioned, they're impressive to me of what that means for 5G, because I think when people hear 5G, they think gigabit. It's not untrue, but it's not necessarily true for everybody. I mean, if I'm driving down the interstate going from Gainesville to Atlanta, the likelihood of having 10 gigabit in my car is not necessarily true, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Peter. You know, I just to emphasize the importance of that mid-band spectrum. You know, what we kind of refer to mid-band internally is your mobile spectrum. You know, we've all seen the crazy fast speed test on, you know, flagship devices of millimeter wave. In some cases, you look at the YouTube video, and they'll actually show you the tower that they're basically standing under on the light pole. But you know, that's not really meant for mobile applications. You know, now in stadiums, you know, that's great. Again, we talked about fixed broadband, point directly at the tower, right? That, you know, that's great too. But you know, moving from site to site, you know, we need some type of a significant overlap for those handoffs to occur, to maintain that IP session from tower to tower. And that mid-band spectrum is sub-6 is really the first time you can really see that kind of transition happening to maintain the average speeds that we're seeing, again, in the 300 megabit per second range on mobile.
So right now, I'm getting, you know, if I take out my phone and I do a speed test on 4G, I'll get somewhere between 5 and 25 megs. It's just where I'm at. You know, where I'm at. So with 5G sub 6, the goal would be somewhere like that 300-ish type speed is what we would expect to start seeing next year. Like, when can we start to see those speeds?
Yeah, so that would be today. That would be absolutely today. You know, I believe there was a pretty
Chris,
recent
are you shaking your head too? Is that today? Oh, I lost you on audio. Oh no. But so today, where, like, is that going to be like New York City and Miami and Tampa, or is that you know, for us normal folk that don't live in the big cities?
Yep. So I can absolutely speak to our deployment, and the key to remember here is that spectrum that T-Mobile's deploying 5G mid-band on, you know, was formerly, a lot of it was formerly Sprint assets. So this has been dedicated to T-Mobile's 5G deployment. However, it was designed to give you the same coverage that you see in 4G. So our 5G mid-band spectrum deployment today covers 75% of the population. So that's absolutely today.
Okay. I would, if it's possible, I would love to actually see that. I mean, if we can maybe get together, I'll buy you a cup of coffee and we can get a 5G phone. I would love to see that. That'd be fun. So the because my understanding is because I've got a category 20 tablet. I just got, it's that Surface Pro X, and that's one of the first devices I've ever used. It's category 20. And I run primarily, actually, I run AT&T and T-Mobile, so I have both. That's actually why I actually wanted to do both on this call, because I can speak directly to my experiences related to your infrastructures. And on my phone, if I run a speed test here, I'll get 5-6 megabits per second of throughput. On the tablet, I was getting 45. It was incredible, but I've yet to see 300 on that type. And so that's why I was like, and I know it's variable. And I know, and I'm a huge fan of technology. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible for anybody that might be watching this. But why would somebody not be getting 300 if they're in an area that is 5G? And please, this is not on T-Mobile. It's not an attack on a carrier. This is an idea of what users should expect. Chris, I think you're talking. Lost your voice. Can you hear? Can you hear him? I'm so sorry. Maybe technical issues there. Greg, can you hear me? Did I lose both of you?
Oh, I can definitely hear you, Peter. I think Chris is having, so it's happened to all of us.
It happens to all of us. It happened to me last night.
There.
So
Yeah.
Um,
So, there could be, it's difficult to say for sure. Definitely device capabilities, right? Could be one piece.
yeah,
Depending on and this is really where my role as a solutions engineer would come in, and my peers, of course, it's not only me, right? So my peers who work specifically with strategic and enterprise customers, in cases that we're not seeing the speeds that we expect to see, we have access to network tools, and we check things to make sure that you have the correct SIM card. There's a release 12 SIM card, and we're talking about 3GPP releases, that needs an over-the-air push to enable a set of 5G. You might have heard of 5G standalone, which kind of decouples 5G from 4G to give you
okay.
further reach. So, we can check to make sure that
And that
SIM
would
OTA
apply to all the carriers, right? I mean, not just, I mean, the ability to do that 3GPP, because I remember I saw, and unfortunately Chris had to drop, so I know that he mentioned 3GPP as well. So that's not a T-Mobile technology. That's a 5G technology.
Exactly. You can think of 3GPP as the IEEE of wireless.
Okay.
So it's a standards body. When the difference between saying you have something like 5G and actual 5G is 3GPP definition of what 5G is.
Okay.
So so yes, those standards-based technologies, they require new SIM cards, of course, new radio heads,
Yeah.
and along with that, there's a migration path. So we have new SIM cards that don't need a software over-the-air push, and that we'd have to look at it individually, right? Individual basis.
Okay.
Now the speeds that you quoted sound more like 4G speeds.
That's what I'm asking. And one thing,
Yeah.
I live in Gainesville, so if I'm in the pink, or in the blue for AT&T, but I've yet to see those speeds. And now I've seen it in Chicago. I went to Chicago with ABC News, and we did a test of 5G, and we did test of millimeter wave as well as sub-6, and we're getting phenomenal speeds. I've got I'd use my category 18, actually, my 4x4 MIMO Cat 18, and I was able to get several hundred megs of throughput on the LTE advanced in a sense. I haven't seen the kind of the advertised speeds, and once again, this is not an attack on a carrier. I want to help other people that might be asking, if what I should be expecting from 5G. And what I've noticed is the category modem makes a huge difference. And going from category 12 to category 18, I could go from 5 megabits per second to 45 megabits per second, and then going from to the Cat 20 on my tablet, I'm getting a sustainable high throughput, but I'm not seeing that 300 and 400 that I would expect to see if 5G was in my area. And so that's, once again, at least not an attack. It's just trying to help people with understanding.
Yep. I would say that the most common piece, and we touched on it briefly, but the most common conversation that we have, that we like to have on the front end is looking to make sure your equipment actually supports those specific bands, 5G on the specific bands. So this is kind of, it's unusual, right? When you think iPhone or Galaxy Tab or whatever the device is, it has the same model name. You think it's the same device, but manufacturers make several different variants of devices, both for different geographical regions of the world and sometimes for specific carriers. So we are so early on with 5G now that sometimes some radios were built for a specific carrier's 5G, supporting the frequency bands that they own only and not other carriers. So as we see more modules and chipsets develop, we'll see more broader coverage of bands, more ubiquitous 5G bands.
Chris, do we have audio? Chris?
I don't know. Do we have audio yet?
Yay! Because I want to talk about
No audio.
I hear you, Chris. Can you hear us okay?
All right.
Maybe. Oh, I'm so sorry. Technology, man. I wanted to talk about FirstNet a little bit, but while we're waiting, and I'll jab on that as well. But I've heard a lot about Band 71. Greg, can you elaborate on what that is? I mean, it's specifically Band 71.
Absolutely. So Band 71 is T-Mobile's 600 megahertz. So in the wireless world, the actual frequency spectrums are classified by bands, and there's really a group of frequencies. So Band 71 was auctioned off from public television broadcasters, television broadcasters. And T-Mobile made an $8 billion investment to secure significant license holdings in Band 71. This is what allows us to make very confident claims that we will have 5G coverage in rural areas. And that was a major part of the merger, knowing that we have so much 71 frequency holdings and licenses for those in all 50 states. So that's going to be key for that reach across the country and in building penetration.
Okay, it's not necessarily first responder band. It's that low level band you mentioned in your presentation.
Band 71, that's correct.
Okay.
That's right.
Peplink does support Band 71, by the way. So, and Band 14. And I know Chris is passionate about Band 14, and I want to give that a shout because we've had a lot of great success with Band 14 and FirstNet, and I know if I could talk to Chris about it right now, he would be boasting about it. But it is a massively popular network right now, especially in first responders, and so Peplink does support that, and Chris is able to help you guys get that. So if you do need Band 14 or looking at FirstNet, please reach out. We have 20 people still on, and we've gone well over an hour. So Amber, do we have any questions from other people?
We still have the one from earlier, if you want me to go ahead and read that one.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go with that one real fast.
Sure. It is from Claudio, and it's a question about live streaming in remote areas. They wanted to know what the best solution for having great bonding is using Peplink and high gain 4G antennas.
Okay, happily. So when you're talking about, and once again, we're talking about 4G a little bit, we'll talk about 5G because it's a 5G talk, but traditionally the way that I overcome limitations in cellular is by adding more SIM cards, which is why we have like the FDX and the EPX. We have the MBX platform. And what I've noticed back previously is if we could get 3 or 4 megs of upload throughput on an input carrier, I could combine 4 or 5 of those together to create a nice, reliable 20 meg stream. What that means is that your video upload is going to be more consistent and reliable out in rural areas. And we've I brought my picture of my antenna earlier, but we have a bunch of these mobile market antennas, and it's probably our top priority or number one antenna right now because they support that 600 to 6 gigahertz range and have all the different links and connectors that we need. And one of our broadcast customers right now we built a Pelican case with 4 of the 5G antennas at 600 to 6 gigahertz. So it's 4 of those in a single Pelican case with the grounding plane built in and a stand. And then we take that and we had 30-foot cable that we bond together with the QMA connectors to the back of the MBX. Then that single stand gets put on a speaker stand. So we just grab a normal $29 speaker stand, put that antenna on there, plug in our SIM cards, and we've been able to do live events all over the world using the MBX platform, cellular bonding, and that antenna specifically. And so if you're looking to broadcast, especially when you're transmitting imaging or video, that the reliable upload that you're going to get by bonding these carriers together is the most successful I've ever had. And I know in theory, you can take a single SIM card and get, 45 megs or 100 megs of throughput, or maybe even a reliable 20. But what you might not get all the time is that consistent, especially in rural areas where you're always getting 20 megs of upload. And so by combining these four together, you're able to achieve the throughput that you need. One of my broadcast customers just yesterday was out in Los Angeles, and they were trying to do some live streaming with multi-cameras. And so we were trying to achieve about 100 megs of upload throughput by combining four carriers. And actually it was two AT&T and two T-Mobile SIM cards in this MBX Cat 18 device with four of these antennas. We were getting a little over 150 megs of download throughput on 4G with about 98 megs of upload throughput. And the customer was able to do all of their live streaming events and handle that well. So, what I would suggest is make sure you have a little bit more than you think you need so that when the connection's not good, you have enough. Because when it's good, they're all great. It's when it's not good that you want those extra SIM cards. Is there any other questions? Because we are.
Hey, Peter, I'm back.
Time.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, hey, Chris. Sorry about that.
Yeah, gotta love it. Well, for some reason, when I tried to log back in, it said that I was just an attendee and it wouldn't let me talk. So anyway.
Is there any other questions, Amber? Or?
Nope, not yet.
Well, due to the fact that we are running over on time, I want to thank Greg and Chris. If you have any questions about 5G, band 14, band 71, Peplink routers, please reach out. We'll send everybody's contact information to everybody that attended. It'll be also included in the video. I think
Peter, we have one more question.
it's right there too, so I'm gonna leave that right there. Oh wait, I'm allowed to have you guys. Can I put your information there, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So there's everybody's information if you have any questions. And one more question.
When are the expected release dates for the Balance 20X 5G Flex Module Minis?
I was told the Flex Module mini, oh my gosh, I can't speak. The Flex Module sub-6 equipment is supposed to be Q1 2021. And then we should start seeing millimeter wave stuff in Q2.
Thank you.
And that's going to be the category 20 module. The category 18 you can get now and be completely ready for it. So, great. Well, then, thank you everybody so much. Thank you. I know there's a lot of people on this meeting that stayed well over the hour. I really want to thank you for that. This is my first kind of panel study type of meeting. And I want to thank Greg and Chris so much for their time today. I've personally learned a lot, and I hope other people did as well. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Peter. I appreciate it.
Yep, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.